A brief introduction on Towers Watson and ROC, two focused organizations fully committed to human capital management, working in partnership to deliver value to clients. Now, I'm sure many of you will look at the Towers Watson logo and think, I'm sure they used to say Towers Perrin. Towers Watson was formed from the merger of Towers Perrin and Watson Wyatt, two global professional organizations, both steeped in deep and broad expertise in HR function effectiveness, advising many, many companies on the Fortune 1000, over 3/4 of the Fortune 1000 companies. And they have a lot of their client experience and solutions is backed by research, and so we will be benefiting from true industry insight today. ROC is a SAP accredited services partner with 100% focus on human capital management, including payroll services, talent management, and of course HCM analytics, subject of today's webcast. We have consultants delivering SAP HCM projects all over the world, helping organizations achieve global harmonization through the use of SAP human capital management. As you can see, we both specialize in this subject. We have been collaborating as partners since 2007, and last year entered into a strategic alliance to bring true end-to-end HCM expertise to organizations. Today's presenters. Today's speakers are Rosalind Feinsod, Thomas Mize, and Torsten Kleinball. Rosalind is a principal at Towers Watson's New York office. She helps clients develop workforce and reward strategies, is a frequent speaker on workforce and rewards topics. Rosalind has experience in many industries, including healthcare, retail, manufacturing, entertainment, and the not-for-profit sector. Thomas is a senior HR analytics expert at ROC with more than 10 years' experience. He helps organizations define their KPIs for the HR function. And Thomas has extensive experience of HR dashboards that allow organizations to manage their processes more efficiently. His focus is on the functional design aspects of HCM dashboards. Thomas is supported by Torsten, a senior SAP business intelligence technology expert at ROC. Torsten has guided more than 30 organizations in their implementation of SAP HCM business intelligence systems. And obviously his focus is more on the technical design of the HCM dashboards. Welcome, Rosalind, Thomas, and Torsten. In terms of interaction, there is a Q&A session planned at the end. Please feel free to submit your questions during the webcast just by typing them in the Type Your Question area in the toolbar on the right-hand side. Questions aren't viewable by anyone else on the webcast. Technical questions will be addressed as soon as possible, and questions relating to today's topic will be addressed, time permitting, during the question and answer session at the end of the webcast. Any questions we don't get around to answering, we will respond to by email. And finally, before I hand over to the speakers, there is a survey at the end which will automatically pop up. This webcast is one of a series from ROC and Towers Watson, and they run on the last Thursday of the month. So the next one will be Thursday, the 25th of February. Please feel free to let us know your thoughts on future topics in the survey. And in return for taking the time to fill in the survey, we will send you a copy of the Towers Perrin, as was executive survey results. Certainly, it's a very good read. Now, without any further delay, let's move on to today's presentation. And over to you, Rosalind, to set the scene.
Thank you so much. And so what we're going to be talking about are workforce analytics. Are you seeing all that you should see? We've heard organizations at Legacy Towers Perrin and Watson Wyatt talk about workforce metrics for a while, but we really see a huge push with global organizations being at a true tipping point in terms of focusing on workforce metrics. So why metrics now? Certainly, I'm sure that you are all feeling in your roles that business complexity is increasing. You need to make smarter and faster decisions about more complex things than ever before. And while companies always have talked about the fact that their human capital or their people are their most important assets, an increasing need to really define what that truly means. How do they effectively manage their talent? how do organizations manage 4 generations in the workforce? And then ultimately, how do they really establish those connections between people and business performance? There's also been a great shift in terms of the need to really have better governance and transparency about how companies are making decisions. So making sure that they're both managing things efficiently in terms of the costs they spend on labor and spending on the right things that are really going to drive growth in the organizations, and the need to really give leadership the right kinds of information so that they're driving for the right things. And then the last point, automation is possible. Companies have invested significantly in better technology and are really starting to connect the dots in terms of their customer and financial data with their workforce data. So companies are really taking a much more integrated approach to human capital measurement in terms of looking at their business performance and the connection between people performance and those business outcomes, looking at some diagnostics in terms of internal and external measures, really aligning the processes so that they can really think about how do people drive business performance, and then ultimately put the right information and measures in the hands of managers. And doing a mix of predictive measures, so what's going to drive future performance, allowing different parts of the organization to compare with each other, to diagnose what some of the gaps are, and also to compare to external benchmarks so that ultimately that workforce performance can drive better business performance in the organization. Moving on to the next page, and I'll talk a little bit about the top 5 trends that we see at Towers Watson in terms of human capital management. Trend number 1 is really a focus on the kinds of measures that specifically align with your organizational strategy. And organizations are recognizing that they need to prioritize. They can't do everything. And what we found in our research as we looked at some of the data that we collect through surveying over 3 million employees around the world and looking at some of the outcomes for high-performance organizations, that the most successful organizations really focus on their strategic priorities. Are we a company like a Walmart that's focused on efficiency? Are we a company like Apple that's focused on innovation? And then looking at what is it about our people, about our talent that really drives that. So if we're an organization about innovation, we need that diversity of thought. We need a great work environment. We need collaboration. And we need to make sure that we've got the data in place, the measures in place. They're going to track those measures about people and innovation. Moving on to the next slide and trend number 2. Really thinking about what are the organizational capabilities that are going to drive performance in your business, and being able to first think about from a process perspective, if I want to increase customer value and my customer satisfaction scores, what are the things that I'm going to need to do either in terms of new customers, my brand, or my customer service? And then drilling back down to what is it about my people, my organization, the capabilities that they have that will really drive that, and making sure that there's alignment, there's a connection in terms of the information that you're capturing in your systems with what those drivers are of your ultimate customer value chain. Moving on to the next slide and trend number 3. Organizations are not taking a one-size-fits-all to their measurement approach, but really trying to segment their thinking and focus their measures on different parts of the workforce and thinking about which are the roles in the organization that really drive the strategy, those strategic and core roles that really create competitive advantage, that are really the engine of the enterprise. So if you're a biotech organization, that might be your R&D talent or some of your plant managers. If you are a high-tech organization, that might be some of your software developers or some of your leadership talent. So being able to capture within your systems, within your measures that are focused on those strategic and core job families within the organization. Trend number 4, moving to the next page, is really being able to put those pieces together and organize your measures in some buckets that are going to make sense for your different end users in the organization. So as you've thought about what are your elements of competitive strategy, how do you operate, what are your priorities in terms of your human capital, thinking about the different ways, the different categories of measures in terms of your workforce and talent management, in terms of performance management, leadership, engagement, the effectiveness of your labor costs, and your customer focus. And thinking about those different kinds of buckets and who are the end owners for that data. And it's going to be a mix of your line leadership as well as your HR leadership that's going to have access to those different key categories. Finally, turning to the next page, trend number 5, is to really then to select some specific measures that are going to help you monitor the effectiveness of your workforce. And so, taking each of those different key categories, selecting some specific key performance indicators, defining what those are, trying to automate those in your technology, create dashboards that will then be available to the different end users of that data in these different categories. So if you've got some measures about employee engagement as one example, looking at what is the level of engagement in the organization? How does that vary for the different key talent pools? How does that really connect to business outcomes? And then what are the things that your managers can do in terms of things like developing their talent, in terms of managing retention, in terms of rewarding people, that is really going to drive better engagement in the organization. Turning to the next page, in terms of where are organizations at today in terms of their human capital measurement. And what we find is that there still is a pretty broad continuum of where we see employers around the world in terms of human capital measurements. There are some, unfortunately, that are probably still sitting on the couch or in the driveway where human capital measurement is at its infancy. It's still a level 0 process where they're just doing ad hoc measures. They don't really have any benchmarks yet. It's all a very manual and complex process, or there isn't any ownership yet in the organization. More and more organizations, though, are probably on the road and moving to the fast lane in terms of having some periodic measures that they've established, looking at some both internal and external benchmarks, and starting to really collect the right kind of information within their data and systems so that they can better track the drivers of performance. And then a number of organizations, are really trying to move towards that fast lane or at the destination, where they've got a much more integrated approach, where they know how human capital really drives business performance, and where they leverage technology to really automate some of that kind of distribution of information with real-time updates to that. Moving on to the next page, in terms of a case study, and this is a property and casualty insurance company that we worked with that had put some real emphasis on measuring employee engagement and what were the drivers of that engagement. So looking at what was really going to have those employees go above and beyond for the organization and satisfy customers. And what they were able to do is to mine some of their data that they had been collecting on engagement, that they had been collecting about their workforce, and had been collecting about customers, to look at some of those correlations and to really be able to drill down into the different parts of the organization to really establish that there are those true connections between the engagement of the workforce and their customer satisfaction scores. So beyond scorecards, moving on to the next page, how do organizations really go beyond just capturing information and using that information in decision support? So 3 different key areas that we see organizations focused on as they're moving beyond just kind of capturing information in a scorecard. So looking at what the optimal mix of rewards is, as they think about that 40 or 50% of their expense that they spend on labor, making sure that that connects to customer engagement, to employee engagement, and that those are the right investments. Workforce planning, so looking at their current and future business plan and then really being able to leverage that data to look at demand, supply, and gaps. And then finally, again, on that employee engagement, again, being able to do, as we saw in that case study, some more sophisticated things in the area of employee engagement to give that information to your managers on their desktop and to be able to slice and dice the information so that those managers can then really act upon it and close any gaps within your workforce. So how do you get started in terms of more effective human capital measurement? Moving on to the next page. The starting point is, doing some diagnostics with your data. So looking at what you have available, what do you need to really measure, and to start to do some internal comparisons and external comparisons in terms of what are the best opportunities for your human capital measurement processes. The second piece is not making measurements a process for the sake of measurement, but really thinking about the return on investment. What are your biggest opportunities and gaps that you can really focus those investments on? That might be in terms of turnover of some of your high-performing employees. It might be closing certain kinds of skill gaps, or it might be helping to really enhance succession in your organization where you might have some gaps in future leadership talent. The third point, linking to business performance, making sure that as you're going down this path of measurement, that you really have the end game in mind to drive better customer behaviors and then better business outcomes and financial performance. And finally, really leveraging your technology to assist you to really track performance. And the technology is more and more available to organizations, as you'll hear about shortly, and that can really help you focus your strategies and goals with the right kind of information in the hands of your management. So with that, I will turn it over to Thomas to talk some more about technology and how you can really take the next step in your human capital measurement.
Oh, thank you, Rosalind. That was very insightful, and I think set the scene very nicely for the rest of the presentation. I would encourage any attendees, if they have questions, to submit them at this point in time so we can start collating them. But on that note, I'm going to hand over to Thomas Myers of ROC to take us, I guess, into a little bit more of the technical, well, the functional side of things. Over to you, Thomas.
Thanks, Damien. Welcome, and I'd like to shortly introduce us too. Both of us, Thorsten and me, are consulting managers and responsible for the business intelligence unit at ROC. To provide the best possible service during HCM reporting and BI projects, we split our responsibility. Thorsten is responsible for the technical solution design, and I'm responsible for the functional solution design. This mix enables us to consult our customers in a very efficient way, independent if we are working together with HR or IT representatives. Now I'd like to hand over to Thorsten, and he will make a short introduction of the next slides.
Okay, hello everybody, this is Thorsten speaking. Let me briefly introduce the agenda to you that you can see now on the screen. First of all, Thomas is talking about how to deal with external conditions and factors, for example, demographical change, social problem, but can also be an issue in your company. In order to deal with these challenges, you need to define HR strategies, such as being employer of choice, for instance. The next part is about defining actions which helps you to implement these strategies. The effectiveness of your actions will be measured in turn by key performance indicators which you need to define with the business. After that, we like to show you a short demo of a demographics dashboard built with Excelsius, which is the latest technology tool from SAP. It's actually from Business Objects, and I will tell you a little bit more about Business Objects. And the underlying data is coming out of our internal SAP Business Warehouse systems, and you will see that in detail then. After the demo, we want to outline how easy it is to build such a cockpit and how you can get the most out of your data with a BI system. I hand over back to Thomas, who will tell you more about challenges and strategies.
Okay, thanks, Thorsten. HR dashboards and cockpits have quite often a very low degree of utilization. But why? In most cases, this is due to missing target orientation. HR departments are just offering a set of indicators or KPIs, and the line managers don't know what to do with these. Today, we want to show how it is possible to design and establish HCM dashboards with a better target orientation. One possible way is to consider current challenges and the derived HR strategies. Therefore, we'd like to discuss shortly with you, based on the current challenges, possible HR strategies and objectives, how these can be supported with different HR dashboards. HR challenges need to be controlled, and the impact on the HR function and entire workforce need to be analyzed. Only if companies are prepared for these challenges, HR can contribute to the overall business objectives. Therefore, we'd like to introduce an indicator-based risk reporting with HR dashboards. The idea of these dashboards is not to aggregate everything to one single top metric, but to create different HCM dashboards with risk indicators that enable trend analysis or simulations. This way it is possible to increase the degree of usage of HCM dashboards, to identify in an early stage risks, to limit these with specific activities and HR instruments, and to contribute this way in a better way to the overall business objectives. But what are the current HR challenges companies and the HR functions are facing? One major challenge is the demographic change, which has an impact on your personal cost structure due to the aging workforce, to the possibility to hire new talents and employees, due to the future lack of young academics, like the war for talents, which was an issue in 2000 and 2006, and which will be an issue again in the future. Other HR challenges are, for example, the economic crisis, the globalization, or the general value proposition of HR. During the further webcast, we want to focus on the demographic change. Also, the dashboard we have prepared is for the demographic change analysis. So we want to focus on demographics and what are possible HR strategies regarding the demographic change. One could be prepare the company for the demographic change. Based on this general challenge, it is recommended and required to define specific strategic objectives to enable a risk indicator-based controlling and to support it with a dashboard. In case of the demographic change, a possible HR strategy is to prepare the company for the change. Derived strategic objectives could become employer of choice and to sustain and build know-how. It is important to establish a strong branding as employer of choice to get in future the required qualifications and talents from the labor market and to keep these in the company. This means that companies need to intensify the marketing and recruiting process, that they need to have a look on the current working conditions if these are attractive, and that they need an excellent leadership to motivate the employees. Once these challenges are identified and the derived HR objectives are defined, it is possible to define specific metrics and risk indicators that support HR and the general management in reaching the defined objectives. For the strategic objectives to become employer of choice, different actions are possible. Like I told already, it is a possibility to intensify marketing and recruiting, to increase motivation and image, to force excellent leadership, and to ensure attractive working conditions. Before you go for these actions and define specific dashboards for these, you should do an impact analysis if the demographic change is an issue for your company. And for these dashboards, you need, for example, the age structure, the average age, and you need some simulation parameters like employee turnover, growth, average entry date of new hires. And we want to start now with this impact analysis, how a dashboard could look like. And Thorsten will now introduce the dashboard, and he will also tell something about the technical prerequisites you need to establish such a dashboard. So I hand over to Thorsten.
Okay, Thomas, thanks a lot. Before we start the demo with the dashboard, I would like to lose a couple of words regarding Business Objects. Business Objects is a French-based company with about 3,000 employees, which is developing business intelligence tools. And Business Objects was acquired by SAP about 2 years ago, and SAP is now about to integrate all the BO tools and products in their portfolio. And the main message is that the Business Objects tools are very strong in the front-end area. We have a couple of tools there which are really best of breed, like Crystal Reports for formatted reporting or Web Intelligence for web-based reporting, but also very good dashboard builder like Excelsior, and our demo was built with the tool Excelsior. The old BEX or SAP front-end tools will be migrated to Pioneer, which is the main product for the SAP BI front-end suite. And the Pioneer ramp-up will be in Q2 this year, and ROC will be a ramp-up customer. So we participate in the ramp-up very early and can see what the product looks like and feels like. In the backend area, SAP is very strong, and SAP Business Warehouse will be the product of choice in the future. So it's now about to combine the SAP backend with the BO frontend, and that's what we did in our demo. So I think I need to get control now in order to, okay, I've got control, great. What you see here now is the demographics dashboard that we have. And in the diagram, you see a blue line which shows your headcount, your active headcount, split it up by age ranges. And it starts with the age range under 20 and goes to the age range over 60. And the blue line shows your values for 2010, which is a reference value for you here. The gray columns show the headcount values in the future, and the beginning is also on 2010, so you don't have a gap between the gray columns and the blue line here. In the upper part of the dashboard, you see something which looks very similar to like a DVD player or a CD player, and here you can switch to other years, so you can make kind of a time warp into the future and go, let's say, into a year 2030 or something like that. And what you see in the diagram is that it's moving, it's animated, and you see that in the lower age ranges, the headcount is going down compared to your initial value, and in the higher age ranges, it's going up. And you get these yellow columns here, which shows the gap between your initial value and the future value. On the right-hand side, you see the average wage KPI, also for 2010 as reference value, and for your future values here on this one, in this diagram. And also, if you change your values here, you see that the average range is going up and down. Yeah? So it is more going up in the future because of your demographical influence here. In the middle part of the dashboard, you can drill down or filter on certain organizational units. For instance, if you're a pharmaceutical company, you would like to see, you're very interested in your research department. And you can also filter on a certain scope or qualification, and again, on pharmaceuticals, the scientists will be very interesting for you. It's also conceivable that you put in here some filter options on talent management key figures or characteristics like key position or key person that you can filter on and focus on. Last but not least, you can select a gender which you're looking at. There can be quite some changes between the genders here. Let me put this all back to all. And what you also can see here is two buttons for headcount details and headcount totals. The headcount details, you can focus on a certain age range. Let's say you want to focus on the age range 30 to 35. You can click this one and you see the detail values here. The headcount totals, of course, as the name says, shows your totals of your company. Okay. On the right-hand side, in the lower corner, you see what I would like to call a parameter box. Here you can specify and define external parameters or influence parameters which you can change in your simulation process. The first of them is fluctuation or turnover, and if you increase turnover, your average age is going down, as you can see here, because of the turnover, you get a lot of young people in your company. And in the most cases, the entries are younger on average than your total average age. So with the increase of fluctuation, average age is going down. You can also specify a general growth plan that you want to have. Let's say you want to grow your headcount by 10%. Then your headcount grows over the entire age, over all age ranges, so you don't have a change in the average age because of this. The next parameter is the average retirement age, which is set to 65 by default, which is the one in Germany. But in the future, it will probably increase to, let's say, 67 or something like that. And obviously, average age is going up then. Sure. Another one is replacement entry age, which is 30 by default. And if you change this one, for instance, make it lower, of course, average age is going down. And sure, if you make it higher, it's going up. Okay. What you can do here is you can also switch off your replacement simulation completely with this button. And you won't have any replacement entries anymore because you are not the employer of choice, or there are no young people and qualified people on the market that you can get. And now you can see on the total that you have a huge gap in your headcount, which is really a risk for your business here because of your demographical influences here. And even if you turn your growth up to, let's say, 20%, you cannot fill your gap with this because of your demographical influence. So you really need to take some actions out of this. Of course, you can build dashboards for other areas as well, like attractiveness as employer or recruiting, talent, compensation, and performance. And I would like to hand over to Thomas again. He will tell you more about these areas.
Thanks, Thorsten. Now I'd like to go back to the key figure list we have prepared for you. So in case that you have identified now a risk for your company due to the demographical change, then you can do it with this dashboard. The dashboard you've seen was to analyze the impact, and for that we have created a simulation. In case of the other listed actions, so like intensify recruiting, intensify motivation and image as employer of choice, excellent leadership, a simulation is not the right dashboard. For that you need more a dashboard with time row diagrams. So for example, for intensify recruiting, in case that your recruiting center makes a first assessment of all applicants, for example, they have the categories A, B, C candidate, then in this dashboard you will see, for example, a time row if the A candidates are increasing or decreasing. In case that they are decreasing, it could have different reasons, like this qualification is not available on the market, but it could also be that you have a risk that you are not the employer of choice, so the graduates don't want to work at your company. So that's what we understand if we talk about a risk indicator-based dashboard. So for example, for intensify recruiting, you have the number of applications in a time row, the number of new entries with excellent performance, have you selected the right employees? You see the early turnover, are the employees leaving within the first year of employment? Like increase image as employer of choice, you need key figures like employee-initiated turnover, probably the motivation index or the number of new hires due to recommendations from internal employees. So these are some actions, these are some key figures you can use for risk indicators. And what does it mean for dashboards? It would mean that you probably have two additional dashboards. So if you have an issue with the demographical change, then you need to have a look on your ranking as employer of choice, and you need to check if you have or if you provide attractive working conditions. So it could be possible that you create two more HCM dashboards, one for employer of choice with trend analysis for these risk indicators, and the same you do for the working condition dashboard. You offer a trend analysis so that you can identify in a very early stage possible risks, and you can initiate the required actions from HR perspective. Okay, now I'd like to hand over again to Thorsten, who will talk a little bit about the journey from data to dashboards, what you need, what the substandard provides, and how you can create these dashboards. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Thomas. Let's talk about the implementation of a dashboard and systems that you need for this. Of course, you need a source system where you store your HR data in, which can be SAP HR, but can be also PeopleSoft or Payzy or whatever. It can be also an Excel file or another database. you need to bring this data into a BI system, a business intelligence system. The business intelligence system is storing your data in a multi-dimensional way, which makes it very flexible to build reports on and to change these reports to cover your requirements. In case you use SAP HR and as BI system business warehouse, SAP is delivering pre-packaged content which you can put out of the box, activate and install, and you can immediately start working on the BI system, invoking the standard reports provided by SAP, which makes it very easy for you. So you just have to bring the boxes together, the building blocks, and you have a system very quickly. Okay. The business needs to define a blueprint, a business blueprint, where all KPIs are defined, the metrics are defined, the dashboards are defined from a layout view, and IT is taking care of the implementation, is building the data model, implement the authorization, and in the BI system, HR and IT is bringing these blocks together. And we from ROC, we can support you in this process. We can cover all of these areas. We can define strategies and KPIs with you, but we can also bring in templates and accelerators in order to help you to implement this thing in the system as well. We can even offer you a service which we call Test Drive BI. Means you can use our internal BI systems. You just need to bring in your data. Can be just test data with no productive names or personal numbers because of data protection, and we can provide you with the reports out of this data. Let's say we can also show you a demographics dashboard with your PA data, which is needed. And it's actually just PA data. It's we talk about HR master data. Okay, so that's for the slide, and I think we can skip the slide. Next one. Okay, what data do we need actually in order to build all these KPIs? We need data out of a couple of areas in your system and your company. For instance, personal administration, org management, but also the classical ones like time management and payroll. Very interesting is performance management, but you can also build in external data, let's say from survey results from external providers. And the good thing is you can bring all this data together in your business intelligence system. You can even bring in data from financials or controlling and build projected KPIs or profit KPIs. Mixed with HR data here on this in the dashboard. You know? For instance, very interesting to bring together performance management data with compensation data. And all this data is available in your company, and it's actually quite easy to obtain. So use your data, make the most out of it with a BI system. So let me briefly talk about our team that we have. It's actually a very good mix out of technical and business skills. It's our data analytics core team that we have. And because of the skill sets we have, we can cover really all areas of a project, from analysis and design over to implementation and maintenance. And of course, we can access all ROC resources that we have also in an international way. We can work very closely together with the development department, but also with strategy consulting, the classical consulting areas, so we can bring in the entire ROC knowledge here in our project. What is our service offering? What can we offer? We can help you defining KPIs, like I said, but we are also doing audits and reviews of your reporting, but also of your authorizations, which is a very important issue because of data protection issues. but we can also do system reviews and give you some recommendation how to build a very good system. We have HCM dashboards that we can use as best practice and help you in designing these dashboards. We have data model templates that we can use, and the templates are on a reference system, and we can use it immediately. We can simply copy it to your system and use it there. And we also have a lot of other templates for extraction out of systems, so it's all there. And as I said, we have these test drive offering where you can test drive the dashboards with your data. This is what we can offer you. Okay, I think I'd like to hand over to Damien again.
Okay, thank you, Thomas and Torsten. That was fantastic. Thank you very much. I hope everyone has seen that together. I hope that's come across as being a very informative webcast. And together, ROC and Towers Watson can bring you the expertise at whatever point you are along the journey. But moving swiftly on, we will now address some of the questions that have been asked during the presentation. Please feel free to continue submitting questions. We will try and get through them all. So in terms of the first question, Rosalind, I thought I'd start with you because I haven't heard from you for some time. So just a question around what are some of the most common KPIs that you're seeing companies, sort of looking to put in place?
Yeah, so I would say the top three, Damien, are first off around attraction and retention. So thinking about hiring sources, what are the most efficient sources of current and future talent, as well as some metrics around retention. But as we were talking about before, and as you've heard from all the presenters, not just about looking at general turnover rates, but looking at retention for critical talent, retention for short service, retention by generation. So attraction and retention is one big category. Engagement is another category. So again, the level of engagement, the drivers of engagement, and engagement for key segments. And then finally, measures around leadership. So looking at the competencies and capabilities of leadership, the pipeline of leadership, and the performance of leadership.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. And there was another question which I think is probably more appropriate for yourself as well, which was around the sources of benchmarking information, and whether you have any recommendations or advice on that area.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, there isn't a single source per se that exists. But as you think through what are the key performance indicators for your company, there are going to be a number of sources that you can pull. Currently, Towers Perrin and Watson Wyatt, and now the combined Towers Watson, have a number of proprietary sources of benchmarking data that can be provided, things around labor costs, things around human capital, so around talent management and demographics. And also, we've worked with many organizations to collect various helpful third-party sources of data. So, things around, the external labor market demographics and availability from various government and industry sources. So it's really a question of kind of picking the best available information from, either the various human resource consulting firms and then some of the other third-party providers of data.
Okay, thank you. Torsten, this was a question that was actually asked during your presentation around, or might have been Thomas's actually, around what external influences on HCM sort of came with the crisis in terms of last year, and things that you perhaps have seen change in the year since the economic crisis.
Okay, thanks. The most issues which come up with the economic crisis was for sure cost reduction, job freezes, reduction of headcount. So from a dashboard point of view, it was very important, or from KPI point of view, it was very important to provide cost reports, cost dashboards, and also for the employee turnover, to analyze the reduction of headcount, split it down to different organizational units to analyze at all the change within the company from a cost and headcount perspective.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to, a couple of people have asked whether they'll be receiving a copy of today's presentation, and I can confirm that you will, just to give people comfort on that. Torsten, another one for yourself. What is the best starting point for getting a dashboard together? I mean, you showed us some demographics information. Is that the best starting point, or what can you share with us in that area?
Yeah, I would say it's best to start with personal administration data because everybody has this in the system and it's very easily to obtain. It's pretty much master data, HCM master data, and you can build a demographics dashboard just out of your master data, which is very easy, and which is a good first stage into your BI strategy. And you should take an iterative approach in order to bring in other modules like payroll or time management or performance management. And it's really recommended that you think big but start small.
Okay, so look to get something. And how long, this was another question, but it seems appropriate to ask you now, how long does it take to get one of those dashboards that you showed us implemented for an organization? Well,
yeah. It depends on your requirements, of course, and how many key figures you want to have in, and how much data you have, and things like that. But you could say roughly about 4 to 6 weeks to build a dashboard.
Okay, so that's quite quick.
I just have one statement to the starting point to personal administration. One more reason why you should start with personal administration is that you need personal administration to create all personal movement and headcount key figures. And once you proceed with designing your reporting system, once you integrate performance management and recruiting and time management and payroll, you need in most cases a number of headcount or full-time equivalents for each rate or quota. So that's the reason why you should start every time with personal administration, to be able to combine other areas with headcount and full-time equivalent data.
Okay. I've got a question around NetWeaver, which is the SAP platform. What NetWeaver release is required in order to use business objects?
NetWeaver? You mean what prerequisites you need in terms of release, NetWeaver release?
Yes. Is there a particular SAP version that people need to be on in order to be able to use the dashboards that we saw on the webcast?
Yeah, there is. If you want to integrate Excelsius dashboards with your business warehouse backend, you need to have NetWeaver 7 as a BI platform, and enhancement package 1 and patch 5. Otherwise, it won't work directly. In order to work with Pioneer in the future, you need to have NetWeaver 7.2.
Okay, so there's some quite specific details there, but we will include those in the when we send out the after the presentation. We'll send out some just the answers to the questions that have been raised. So just for the attendees that are listening. In the old, obviously there's some plenty of organizations that are using the business warehouse or the previous SAP versions. What happens to the old business warehouse front ends? And there's an example that someone said is the BEX analyzer.
The BEX analyzer will be migrated to Pioneer, so it will be still available, and Pioneer will have an Excel add-in and web browser-based add-in. And you can migrate all your existing reports to the new Pioneer platform. This is where SAP is working heavily on at the moment, so that no investments are lost, actually.
Okay, so basically, users of the essentially they will just be able to very easily switch over.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got a question around planning and obviously a lot of reporting is enhanced when compared to planning data. How does the planning information get into the reporting dashboards? Is that manually input, or are there other ways that is sort of gets into the dashboard?
Yeah, there's an existing technology delivered by SAP at the moment, which is called BI integrated planning. However, integrated planning is kind of the successor of integrated planning will be business planning and consolidation, which is also a tool for business objects. And SAP is at the moment investing very heavily in BPC. So this will be the new platform for planning. Planning means that you can enter data manually into your BI system, meaning you can do kind of cost center planning or personal cost planning, all BI-based.
Okay. One final question, which I've got here, is just relates to the Towers Parent executive summary results. Just to confirm that if for those people that do take the time to fill in the survey, there is only 8 questions. Then we will be sending out a copy of their results, the executive survey results, which also makes some interesting reading. So just stressing that question there. I'm just finally getting through the questions. If you have master data already, I think this is going to be to Thomas and Torsten. If you have master data already, what would be the best system to use to create dashboards, and how much would this cost? Now, I know that it's not going to be possible to give necessarily that sort of information, but perhaps you could answer the first bit in terms of, if you have the master data, what would be the best system to use to create dashboards?
I think, like Torsten explained, dashboards, the best tool is Excelsius, what we have done. If you have all the master data in your source system in SAP, if you're using a business intelligence system, so you're collecting the data on a monthly basis, extracting it to the BI system, then you should use Excelsius at the moment to build these dashboards. For normal reporting, you will use the Pioneer reporting in future.
Okay.
And
great.
If I can say something about this, it's actually quite easy to build a dashboard with Excelsius. It's actually just to click and drag and drop. And also the HR department could build a dashboard with this. There's no programming skills required or something like that.
Okay. So that's really interesting. So basically on top of people can either obviously easily build their own dashboard, or they can take the predefined dashboards that you showed and were talking about earlier on, and just easily just change those, to tweak those to meet their needs.
Yeah. A company should define a standard set of dashboards. So HR departments can build in future their own dashboards for certain questions, but they should design a standard dashboard set which they use in future, so that they have harmonized key figures, that everybody works with the same key figure definition, that they have the same understanding of these dashboards, and yeah, the standard set is.
Okay. Well, I think, it's obviously an exciting topic. I think dashboards are, certainly we're seeing more and more dashboards being used by HR functions to help drive towards their goals. There will be some information that will be sent out in due course on how to get the dashboard up and running quickly and cost effectively. So for the attendees on the call, just watch out for that in the future. In closing, I'd like to thank today's speakers, Rosalind, Thomas, and Torsten. We really appreciate your insights into this area, and I'd also like to thank our listeners for their participation in today's webcast. So we hope you found the presentation and the demonstrations a good use of your time. That's our main objective here. And links to the recording of the webcast will be sent to everyone. Any questions submitted that weren't addressed, apologies. We will answer those via email. I think we've managed to get through most of them. If you would like to find out more on these subjects, then our contact details will be included in the distributions. You'll see them flashing up on the screens, but also they'll be separately included, both for Towers Watson and for ROC. So following the webcast, an email will be sent to you with a link to a brief survey. As I mentioned, it does provide us with valuable feedback and also just keeps the ideas flowing for future webcasts. We mean to keep these relevant and focused on what SAP users out there in the marketplace are looking to find out. As I said, in return for completing this survey, we will be sending the Towers Watson Executive Summary survey results. This concludes today's